Starting a YouTube channel was one of the best decisions I have ever made, like in my life. It changed my professional, my creative, and my personal life in ways that I couldn't have imagined when I started this journey. And let's be honest, with the world changing, the importance of your personal brand, of everything from a job to your business to AI changing the way we interact with content online, all of this stuff, people are clocking onto the power of YouTube in actually crafting a space for yourself in the internet, but also in the wider world. So with 5 years in the YouTube game and over 135,000 subscribers, I want to share why you should think about starting a YouTube channel, even if you don't want to be an influencer, but also practical tips, things that I kind of wish I knew at the start of this journey that may have made this more optimized if you like. So let's just get into it. So let's start off with why you should actually start a YouTube channel and invest in it. And the first one is the personal brand, right? We are now understanding that people are looking to see what you are like, and they're using the internet to get that information, whether they should trust you, whether they should put you forward for a job, whether they should buy from you, whether they should interact and form a community with you. It is happening via the personal brand. For things like professional development, we're seeing the rise of the online resume, right? Where people are looking to get more information about your skills, your expertise, and what you'd bring by you being online. And having a YouTube channel where potentially you talk about these things, you talk about your area of expertise and your interests and perhaps how they're intersecting, that is an opportunity for people who want to give you opportunities or bring opportunities to you to see more of you because of the brand that you are creating. People are looking to long form to see actual personalities, right? It's not that they just want to learn things or like understand more about this particular job or business or creative path. They want to see it from you. They want to build trust. And long form video that exists on YouTube is a beautiful way to do this, right? In a way that you can't do with a 60-second TikTok or Instagram post that's like, aesthetic images. Nothing wrong with it, but it's hard to actually understand what that person's like and form a connection like you can when you watch a 15-minute, 20-minute YouTube video or 1-hour vlog. Ultimately, YouTube is leverage, right? You get to make this content, this long form content, express yourself, your ideas, your expertise, your experiences, and then you can use that and disperse it across the world effectively. You have access to, I think it's over 2 billion users on YouTube at the moment, and then all of the subsequent places that these videos, these ideas migrate to. The second reason is you're building in-demand skills. One of the first ones and most important is being able to structure and articulate your ideas. This is something that a lot of people are struggling to do in life, and maybe if you're somebody who has this skill, you don't realize that you're sitting on effectively a gold mine. People struggle to take what's in their mind, right, those ideas, those concepts, or the things that they value, and express those to others in a way that makes sense. This is really important in things like business, in your professional life, but also of course in your personal life. And by taking the time out to form long form content like this, you are forced to do so, especially if you want to communicate your ideas effectively and get that across. You practice. Every time you do a video, you get better at doing so. Well, so long as you're thinking of it, actively. Right, from my first video to now, you will have seen a difference in the way that I communicate my ideas, and it's because I have been building and developing this skill over years. But now I can use that skill in multiple ways, right? Not just online and YouTube, but also when I am talking in a professional capacity, when I'm speaking on stage, I carry those things with me. Another in-demand skill is the video and editing capacity. Right? We are seeing the rise of video content and the importance it is playing on the online landscape. If you are somebody who is crafty, you know how to sit down, record, edit, put together these pieces of content in long form video format because you are building a YouTube channel, you are now building and developing a very key skill in this world. But then it goes further than that, because YouTube is a platform where people have to click on your video in order to see it, right? They are not just served it by a timeline or a feed. People have to decide that they want to watch you. And in order to do that, you have to master packaging, right? The thumbnail and the title. Understand who you're talking to and what it is that they connect with. In that moment, you only have one image and you have the title, however many characters, I forget off the top of my head, in order to make an impression. And therefore you are developing the understanding of an audience and marketing and how to connect with people in that sense. That is another very, very powerful and in-demand skill. But let's move on to skills to money, because this doesn't stop. Like I'm telling you, the number of benefits of starting a YouTube channel are ridiculous. Monetization options. There are ones that are more obvious, that come more with views, I would say, but things like AdSense, right? So every time I post a video, I make money because ads run on it. YouTube runs ads, they take a cut, I take a cut for the work that we're doing and effectively the platform being free to the users. So that's one way. but also brand deals, right? Of course, a lot of creators decide to engage with brands and partner up with them, and they get sometimes quite hefty sums in order to do that because they have a YouTube channel, because they have an audience. And it's different to other platforms because, well, if you've been building a connection with me over the years in long form content, right? Ideally, you trust me. And if I haven't abused that trust, if I've been integral in terms of what I show you and what I share with you and only sharing things that I believe in, then the payoff for that brand could be quite high in partnering. And so people can make pretty good money off of that. But it's not just those obvious ways, because less obvious ways is if you have a product or a service that you actually want to sell, that you have, been crafting this expertise over years, and then you get the option to, you sit in front of there, you share your expertise, and you offer things for free of genuine value, not just like, like you genuinely provide value. Then people who want to take it a step further, they want to invest in a product or service, can do so, and so you can monetize in that way. But then even less obvious or more obscure is how this can help with your professional career effectively, right? Because if you're on here, again, sharing your expertise or showcasing skills that you have, like public speaking, even if you are not talking directly about what you do at work, some people will, some people won't, what they will see is your ability to articulate your ideas. Those key skills that I spoke about before, they can see that you have those. So that can impact your professional opportunities, right? Perhaps you showcase or send that, or it's on your CV, so that recruiters can see your YouTube channel and what you're up to. And so that's monetization, but it's still not over yet, because then we have the creative freedom and creative expression that you have through YouTube. You have the ability to express yourself in so many ways with YouTube, and ways that you may not expect, because some of it is going to be with what you say, right? You get to decide what you talk about. There are people who share their art on there. There are people who share, their technical knowledge. People who share genuinely just their lives in vlogs. People who do a mix of that, right? So what you talk about is one thing, but also the format. So I already spoke about vlogs, but you have talking head, which is basically a video like this. You have podcasts, longer style conversations where people are exploring things a little bit more off the cuff, right? And so they feel like more natural conversations. Sometimes people combine all these together, or you see people maybe doing some sort of activity and then doing a voiceover over it. I see this a lot in like the artistic community. People might be painting, but then they have a voiceover where they're exploring an idea or a topic. There are so many ways that you can express yourself through the format and the topic alone. But then you get to the editing and the packaging. So there's another way that you can creatively express yourself. A lot of people, you will see their personality and their style come out in the way they edit the videos, right? With the B-roll, with the transitions, with the text that comes up, with all of these things, motion graphics. There are so many ways that you can inject your creativity into it in this way as well. Then we have one of my favorite parts of this, which is community building. Because again, you are spending so much time expressing yourself and your personality is coming out, you are more likely to connect with people that are like you. And a lot of us can feel quite isolated physically, right? Where we're not connecting with people around us. They're just not seeming to bump into people that, have a lot of crossover, whether it isn't just the way we exist or ideas and interests or, or things that we're trying to achieve, ambition. And so when you are building a YouTube channel and you are sharing yourself, right? And I'm not saying you have to share every inch of yourself, but you will find that people gravitate towards you that are like you. Yes, every so often you'll get somebody who really shouldn't be on the channel because, whatever. Anyway, it's a free market. But the point I'm making is you can start to build a community of people, like-minded individuals, people that you can have conversations with, interact with, feed off of because of your YouTube channel. And the last thing I want to talk about is actually longevity. Of all the platforms, I am very happy that I started with YouTube, right? And that's not to say that the other platforms don't have their place. And I'll even talk about one that I specifically think is great in combination with YouTube later. But the point being is that this platform has kind of stood the test of time so far, right? It's been relatively solid. And even though it had its lull when TikTok was taking off and people were less interested in YouTube, really, where is everyone coming back to? It's here, right? And there's a multitude of reasons for its stability, I guess, obviously it being a company under Alphabet, Google, but the platform has a lot of features that mean people want to keep creating on here and people want to keep consuming on here, right? Creators get a really fair deal in terms of the cut of the revenue on this platform, which is unlike a lot of platforms, right? Where people don't get paid like they get paid from YouTube on other platforms. That's an incentive, right? And that means that people want to keep creating and people want to keep consuming, and the bar gets higher, but not just higher in terms of quality, but higher in terms of authenticity as well, because people start to crave that. But also we've seen, like with the TikTok ban, that other platforms can be less stable. And that's not to say that any of them are complete. They are still your content on somebody else's platform and anything can happen. But in terms of longevity and stability, YouTube seems to make the most sense. So at this point, I hope I'd sold you on YouTube and you're thinking, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. Or maybe you already were and you're like, okay, I should really get serious about this in 2025. But I also know that YouTube can be a very daunting platform, right? Of all of them, the barrier to entry is high or higher relative to the others, right? Because I know what you're thinking. Thinking things like, what do I talk about? You know, what gear do I need? Or, you know, how do I edit? How do I package things, right? You know, how do I build a community? If I want to build products and services, how do I do that? You know, I'm scared. I don't have the I know. But I want to share some practical tips that I think will help you getting started, getting moving, and optimizing for the outcomes that you want with YouTube. Now, let's get one of the biggest things out the way, and this is going to be hard for you to hear. YouTube is scary at the start. It is. But putting yourself out there in any capacity is scary at the start. The thing is, and I've said this in another video, you have to use FOMO in order to get yourself in front of this camera. The fear of missing out on that long list of things that I just spoke about, all of those things from personal branding to community to monetization, right? All those opportunities. Think about that. Every time you put the camera down, I'm not going to do it. Think about all the things you're missing out on. And I promise you, at one point, you'll come to the fact that it's actually scarier to miss out on all of that than to get in front of this camera and start talking about things that I'm interested in. And the great thing is, and you don't know it until you start, but it gets less scarier with the more reps you put in, the more videos you do. Listen, if you compare me on my first few videos, and not just the first one, I would say at least the first 10 to where I am now, oh, it's like night and day. I was stressed, I was anxious, I didn't even want to look at the videos, I didn't want to listen to my voice. So many things in that beginning bit, like I just thought, oh my God, will people see me? And even though that's kind of the point, so many things. And then by now I'm like, switch on the camera, bing, bang, bosh, start talking about things that I'm interested in, which is great, and then post it. And people that like it, and people that don't. So that's it. Get started. If you can't use the positive emotions to drive you to start that channel and get over the fear, leverage the negative ones. Next, let's talk about equipment, because I know this is somewhere people get stuck and it stops them from going any further. You can get started right now on YouTube with a very, very basic setup. And in fact, I got started with a setup probably even more basic than what I'm going to tell you. But let's say the things that you really need. Ideas. So you need a place to write your ideas and structure your videos. I don't really believe in scripting whole videos. I believe in having some structure and some points, and usually riffing, and a lot of your personality comes out in that sense as well, and things that you didn't really think about. You need a place to write your notes. You probably have pen and paper, one end of the spectrum, and you're watching this on a device. So I know that you have some sort of phone or, laptop. You have a note-taking app for free. And if not, you have Notion that you can download for free. That's out the way. Simple note-taking app, cool. We have someone to store ideas. Now we need a camera. Well, again, you are on some sort of device watching this. And a lot of devices, a lot of smartphones have very, very good cameras. Cameras, when in front of a good light source, do a very good job. Sometimes, when, done correctly, not that indistinguishable from a camera that you spend maybe a few £100s on. So, you've got a camera. I know the device that you're using, we're using that camera. I don't even really suggest investing in like big equipment or expensive cameras until you know if you even really want to keep going with this. Right? It doesn't make sense to spend $2,000 on a camera and a lens and you haven't even tried this out yet. Now let's talk about audio. One of the most important things is audio, right? People are more likely to click off a video if it is challenging to listen to than if it's challenging to view. Like, we're very sensitive to audio. And so there are several ways you can do this. One, get a simple clip-on mic. Right, so if you're going to be quite far from your phone, like I'm not that close to my camera right now, then you can get a clip-on mic or a Bluetooth mic. And these are pretty inexpensive. I'm pretty sure you can get some between the range of like 20 to 50 pounds. Otherwise though, there is software that can actually improve your sound quality. So like take away the noise and the anything that is disrupting it. So it makes it sound like you have a top tier microphone in front of you, right? It clarifies your voice so that comes through and all the other things kind of dissipate. What's left? Lighting. Use a window. Use a window in the daytime. That's it. Or go outside. Right now, am I using a fancy light? I'm using a window. And there's pros and cons. Like right now, the light's more behind me. You can see me. You can see me perfectly fine. So now we basically not needed to buy anything and you're ready to get started. Next, you want to say maybe the gear to do with editing and, creating thumbnails. You can edit for free with things like CapCut or DaVinci Resolve. So there's free editing software. And in order to do the basics, which is all you should be doing to get started, let's focus on getting better at delivering, about structuring, about creating ideas, as opposed to being the best editor in the world. Then we're going to talk about the packaging, Canva. Look, we can get really into it. I use Adobe Photoshop, right? But at the start, I was using things like Canva. I was not using Adobe Photoshop. I'll tell you that for free. Gear, we're sorted. You can get everything pretty much for free or use what you have at home. and use basic tutorials to get you started. Speaking of which, if you struggle to note all of that down, don't worry, because I have created a 7-day YouTube plan to get you started from like no channel to your first video in a week or less, which has all of this information in. And if you want that, then just go into the description, click the link and download it. So no excuses, get started. Now, the next practical tip that I want to share, or things I wish I knew, was around the idea of the niche. I know this is something that people talk about a lot, and you can go down the strongly, very clear niche on YouTube, or the less clear niche, and both can work, but they have pros and cons. So I would say the niche, I want to speak only about SRE, so I'm a site reliability engineer, and all things to do with that, right? Then it can be quite easy to build up an audience of a well-defined audience who are there for one particular thing, and the exchange is very clear, right? I'm going to talk about SRE, whether it is that you are an aspiring SRE, an existing SRE, someone looking to transition, right? Or compare things in the tech market. Like, I get quite a clear idea about who I'm talking to, the type of content I'm going to make. And those sorts of channels can grow faster initially, just because people know what to expect instantly, and it's not reliant on personality. However, it can be harder to pivot on those channels, which is when we're going to talk about the other option, where the niche is not so much about the topic, but it's about the person and the audience. This is what I would say my channel is. I speak on a range of topics. Now, they are largely under the umbrella of personal development and bettering yourself, whether it be professionally, personally, creatively, right? But it's largely a less clear niche, you could say. People have to start to either like me as a person or trust that I'm going to try to bring value every single time. And that growth is slower because you don't know what the next video on my channel is going to be about. Let's just be honest. I'm talking about YouTube. I think last time I was talking about the 9 to 5. Before that might have been networking. Like, it is not so obvious what the video is going to be. Therefore, you're coming for me. You're coming for my value. And this isn't in a big-headed way. This isn't in the same way that you have friends. And it's not about, they're only going to talk about one topic. It's about all the other things around that individual, their value, their clarity, their kindness, all those things that you go to. And so it's the dynamic in the relationship is different, but growth is slower here typically, right? However, it means that I'm not necessarily boxed into one topic. I can talk about a multitude of things. As I learn them, as I think something's interesting, can't wait to share that with my community. Like, that's literally what it's like, I just like this thing, or, something coming into my mind and I'm distilling this information and I'm like, I gotta tell the girls. I tell the girls and guys on YouTube. Both can work, but understand what your goals is, So understanding what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve can be very helpful, and patience. Now, ideally, I actually think you're combining both, where you have content pillars. So you speak around a number of kind of connected topics. For example, somebody who talks about entrepreneurship, freelancing, and, life as a businesswoman. So it's not just one thing they're talking about. They're not just talking about business all the time, or it's not just a vlogging channel. They are speaking about several things, but they're quite connected in a way. And then their personality ties these things together, or their overall path ties them together. So there's a mix of the two. That can be a brilliant way, I think, to start a YouTube channel that doesn't box you in too much, but still has enough clarity for people to understand what they can expect and why they should be there. The next thing I do want to talk about, though, is even though the niche can be more fluid and your content pillars can be more fluid, again, it depends on what your goals are. If you are trying to build products and services, then you probably want to start niching down a little earlier. Whereas if you're playing a longer game, it's a bit different. Because if you have a looser niche and you don't know who you're speaking to, this is when things do become quite complex. I said when I started this channel that I was typically talking to my demographic in terms of me, but a few steps back. Or maybe just a step back in that particular topic. They may be ahead of me in something else, but in this particular area, my learnings or things that I'd researched could be useful. But it is a woman. It is somebody who's ambitious and who is attempting to make the most out of their life, who's typically got multiple passions and interests, because if you're on my channel, that is something I talk about. A belief in that Renaissance approach to life where you're not just one thing, but you allow yourself to flourish in multiple ways. And so I know who I'm kind of talking to and the type of stuff that she might be interested in. That's not to say that people who don't fit into that bracket can't watch my content, can't enjoy it. I have men who've watched my channel, some who've left really nice comments and said, I've got a lot out of this. I know this was for women, but this was really useful. And it's not just about people who are my age, because I have actually worked one-to-one with a lady who was over 60. And she's like, at first I was a bit shocked, there's somebody who I would consider I don't want elder, but she's a grown woman who has had a lot of life experience, and yet she's like, no, like you have expertise and experiences in places that I don't. Typically we were talking about social media and building like a brand in that sense, but she was like, no, I don't have this skill. And I like the way that you carry yourself. I like the way that you talk and the way that you explain things and so forth. That's why I'm here. So that's not to say that you don't start to like branch out and reach other people. But if you know who you're talking to, it's easier to build out like content, have ideas, and deliver those in a way that makes sense. The next tip that I want to talk about is really about packaging. And as I said, marketing is pretty important on YouTube. No, it's very important. This is something that I didn't quite realize at the beginning, and I thought I was making really solid videos, and I think I was, because those who did watch it had very, very great feedback for me, right? The comment section was suggesting that this was a high quality video where people took something from, but I didn't get many clicks, like I wasn't getting a lot of views. And I was like, I don't understand, like I put quite a lot of effort into this video, editing it, like I think the ideas are good. The packaging was not though. The packaging either didn't know who it was talking to, like, or you just missed the mark altogether. And so this is the idea that as much as you need to be developing your video skills, your public speaking skills, you need to be developing your marketing skills if you want to attract the right people. That doesn't mean you have to attract loads of people, because like I said, maybe you are trying to build a small niche audience around this particular thing, but you need to know how those people respond, what they're interested in, the type of titles and thumbnails that will attract those people. And a lot of this is human psychology. You'll realize, I noticed that when titles read like more naturally, they typically do better. Right, sometimes I think my early titles were too formal, too structured, too almost corporate-like, and they wouldn't click on them. People wouldn't click on them. And I had to start to think like, would I click on that? Like I know what's inside because it's me, but would I click on that title and thumbnail? And if not, you need to go back to the drawing board, right? Like you need to start again. And so even thinking about the videos that you click on, when you're thinking about thumbnails and titles and what you're trying to get out of this, think about the videos that you click on when you see them on the homepage, right? Yeah, all of these things here, I want to view that. What is it? Look at the way the title is written. Look at the thumbnail. And start to take a mental note. And actually, it'd be great if you could actually jot these things down. The next thing I want to talk about is that you don't actually have to have a big following to see dramatic impacts in your life. I've kind of already alluded to this, but some people choose not to go for views and size, but to actually go for a niche audience that is aligned with either their products, their services, their expertise, and their interests. And let me illustrate this with an example from my other channel, which I haven't been posting on that much, but I have a few videos up and I've seen enough, even with this, a channel that has, I think around 1.8 thousand subscribers. But let me talk about what I've gained from that particular channel. The first one is actually being able to use this as an online resume, right? When I was looking for jobs, this is very much on my CV. Like, oh, you're going to see that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to certain things around site reliability engineering, that you are free as a recruiter to go click. And I would encourage you to see more of me before we even get to the interview stage. So that's something that I have on my LinkedIn and that I had on my resume for attracting people. Seeing that my brand and my knowledge base goes, beyond these bullet points in this resume. Now, I have sold thousands in my SRE course with this very small audience. Why? It's niche, it's direct. I might not have, thousands from AdSense, but yet I can gain and attract people who want to go further with their SRE career and want something more structured. Right? That's not to say that they're not free to watch all of the free content that's online and even the free content that I provide. If you want more, it's there. This niche audience is almost primed for it. Then there is the fact that I have been asked to be on podcasts and interviewed by companies to discuss things around SRE and being invited to speak in events. And so you see, with a channel with only 1.8 thousand subscribers, all of these things are still possible. But now I want to talk about a tip that's about leveraging the YouTube content that you make in order to expand your personal brand. One of the fantastic things about YouTube is its ability to be repurposed and distributed across platforms, right? Because you have created this long form asset, right? This long form video, there are so many things you're about to be able to do with this. And I just want to illustrate this one video. So I have this on YouTube, the second most visited site in the world. I think sometimes it ranks first in certain countries. So, in terms of traffic and getting myself out there, I have that. But I can cut this up into clips, little clips that are vertical effectively and distribute them on short form platforms. And this is where the beauty of what I believe YouTube and LinkedIn comes in handy. Because if you are trying to build a personal brand for professional or business development, this little combination here, I'm telling you, it's the key. It's the key. I've seen it for myself. So I can take these clips, especially if there's alignment between what I'm talking about on my YouTube channel and what I want to be known for on LinkedIn, This is beautiful, right? People on LinkedIn are primed for educational content or expertise or people sharing their knowledge. Cut up the clips. LinkedIn has video now. Boo. I'm able to take advantage of this opportunity. I remember there was one clip that I took from a video, just one. And in that one clip in a week had about 800,000 impressions. It hit 500,000 accounts on LinkedIn. 500,000 members had seen it. From content I'd already made. I didn't have to make any more content. I just had to cut up what I already had because I made this one large asset. And then you can redistribute them on things like TikTok, on Instagram, right? The opportunities, I'm going to say endless, but they are endless in the terms that you can spread it across as many platforms as you're interested in being on. But then we have the text. Because you've crafted some sort of structure, like you've had to organize your ideas in that note app, you can then take some of that text and redistribute that, right? You can put that on, if you post something on something like Instagram, the caption, LinkedIn, of course, the post, or you can put it on Twitter or X. I don't know what these things are called, tweets, X's. I'm not really on that platform, but you see what I'm saying? You can take that idea, split it up, and then redistribute it again. Another way, because I'm not finished yet, right? Because these are things that I didn't even think about when I was first starting YouTube, right? This is things that I've been doing in the last, I would say, year, 2 years. But I can actually take the audio of this, which some of you will have seen, and put it onto podcast platforms for people who like consuming information in podcast format. Maybe you don't want to see my face, and that's okay. Maybe you just want to hear my voice. And so I can, the same video, we have not made another video yet. We have not made another piece of content. We are using that same video, and now I have audio content from it. You see how with one piece of content, I've been able to do so much. So the tip here is, don't forget that you can repurpose the content that you're making on YouTube and leverage it in a multitude of ways. Okay, I realize this is getting quite long, but I want you after this video, I don't want you to watch any more videos on YouTube. I want you, if anything, to go and click the link to the 7-day YouTube plan, everything else you need here, and just get started. So that's why I'm doing so much, just so you know. But the next really important thing is, don't try to be somebody else on YouTube. Be you. Nobody is interested in seeing the knockoff of Mr. Beast, Aaliyah's face. They want to see you. You know why? Why would I go for the knockoff when I can get the other one? I can get the real thing, right? It doesn't make sense. For free as well. They're all on the same platform. I don't even have to pay anymore. I just get to go to the real thing. And it's going to be hard at the beginning because you will obviously take inspiration. Like, don't think from one moment that even these big YouTubers don't take inspiration from each other and smaller creators and vice versa. Now, there's an exchange and flow of energy and ideas and inspiration on this platform. But when you try to lift and shift someone's whole identity, that's when things can start to be problematic, or effectively you lose the unique quality that is you. And again, that's not the same as sharing all of your life. Sometimes people think, in order to be authentic, I have to share everything about myself. You know, whether I got a man or a woman or not, or if my kids have to show up on the screen, or, you know, how much I did. No, that's not the same thing as being you and allowing your personality to shine. Even in sit down videos, I think people will start to see some of my personality comes out. Like, I don't know why I have a thing for accents. I just do. And sometimes they come out, right? And I could probably edit those things out, but I don't want to. I want you to know that, like, I'm a big fan of the Australian accent. Yeah, I love Americans. And sometimes I'm going to do that. And that just comes out naturally, again, because I'm talking for such an extended period of time. They just all flow out because that's me in my everyday. But also just things about like my culture or the influence of being from London will probably come out when I'm speaking, and that's cool. Or the fact that I studied geography will influence the way that I show up. All of these unique configuration of things, when you allow them to, can show up and can make you uniquely placed to talk about things. And one of the final things I want to talk about is actually, you're probably worried about time. Now, there's two elements to this that I want to talk about. Yes, YouTube can be quite time consuming, especially if you're editing your own videos and you haven't outsourced that process. I'm not going to lie to you, it can take quite a while if you are doing heavy editing to get that out. However, we've just spoken about one way that you can cut that down, just having like, organic conversations. Secondly, if you look at your screen time, how much time are you spending on TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube? Oh, it's a lot, isn't it? So the fact that you're saying that you don't have time is probably not true, but you just haven't allocated the time into this area. Also, there are systems and organizations and workflows that you can put in place, especially the more advanced you get, in order to streamline this process. Now, I won't go into that in this conversation because I think that's beyond the scope of this again, and we're starting to get too heavy, and I feel like I've been speaking for about an hour. But just know that there are things in place to help make this process as efficient as possible and get to the bits that you really like doing. Things that are around like even outsourcing, even using AI for different parts of the process, from cutting up clips to, cleaning things up to repurposing to outsourcing the actual editing of the main video. So many things you can do. Just know that if time becomes a genuine constraint, there are still ways that you can make this work. I could talk forever, and you could watch probably 20 videos on this. In fact, you probably have. You probably have watched a few videos and started a YouTube channel. But there's a point in the initial stage where you just have to do it and get feedback. Understand what's going on, understand the flow. Sure, when you want to move on to more advanced things, or you want to skip that kind of trial and error and do it alongside other people in like one-to-ones and accelerator programs, yes, that's an option. But if you're sitting here now and you've never even done anything, never even put up a video, and you want to just start. Download my guide. In fact, if you don't even want to download the guide, just pick up the camera and press record, and then talk, and then upload it. Now, there's levels to this, don't get me wrong, but if you're really serious about this, you can get started today. Look, I said this and I meant it. YouTube changed my life. This is hands down one of the top 3 decisions I have ever made in my life, was starting a YouTube channel, to this point anyway. But if you found this video interesting and useful, and you want to dive a little bit deeper into the branding side and like how you might show up on YouTube, then I would really suggest clicking this video here, where I explore branding in a little bit more depth, and also talking about YouTube. So, check that out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.